Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. It's LSU centric here, and that's why we bring in our guy, Glen West from Go 24/7, to talk all things Tigers, as we do each and every Tuesday on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Glenn, how are you? I am quite well. I'm assuming you'll be inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday for the spring game. What's the first thing you'll be looking for?
Yeah, I think probably just to see these guys in kind of a full scrimmage mode. I mean, we get to see these practices for a couple hours, and they do some team periods, some 11-on-11 stuff, but it's usually always mixed in with a lot of individual drills, a lot of position work, and so I think getting to see first team on first team, second team on first team, however they want to write it up, and just kind of see the rotations that they kind of go throughout the course of the afternoon, that kind of thing. Look, we've all seen these spring games before. We know they're not going to show us the whole playbook, but I think that you'll get a good sense of kind of the identity or the trajectory that they would like to go on both sides of the ball. And I'll just be very interested to see just kind of who kind of settles themselves in as the first teamers. I think we have a pretty good idea of that based on the consistency that they've shown so far this spring. But those are just, a few things I'll be watching for sure.
As we look forward to the season, not necessarily the spring game, how much is realistic to expect from Gabe Relaford and Dominic McKinley in their first year? We understand the depth issues and really the talent issues on the defensive line. Those guys are super talented, but they're also super young.
Yeah, I don't think you want to, unless they're ready, you don't want to put too much on their plate early in their careers. And, look for a guy like Relaford. He's been there this spring. He's been able to develop in the program for a little bit, but he's clearly behind the Paris Shans, the Savion Joneses of the world, who I think are getting most of those first-team reps at defensive end. So, I think probably the more immediate question is if somebody like McKinley can come in and help on the interior. They certainly need the help there right now. It looks like Jacoby and Guillory has one spot kind of locked up right now, and they're still trying to find that second guy. But certainly you bring in a five-star like McKinley, and you kind of hope that he can adjust pretty quickly. But at the same time, everybody develops at their own pace, and we'll just have to wait and see if those guys are ready to kind of contribute here right off the bat.
How big an impact can Bo Davis make in year one?
Yeah, look, I think he's going to earn every penny of his contract this year. With the way things are right now, I think we'll really get a good sense of the impact that somebody like Bo Davis can have here, really in the next couple of weeks, when the portal window opens here, and how aggressive LSU is expected to be in adding a couple more transfer defensive linemen. I'll be very interested to see just kind of who they target. And kind of the name brand that Bo Davis kind of brings with him. I think there's, a general consensus here that he's one of, if not the top developer of talent, one of the top recruiters along the defensive line in the entire country. So if there's somebody out there, or if there's a couple players out there that see, his name and LSU and the opportunity to play right away, I'll be very interested to see just kind of who they are able to reel in out of the portal. I think it's a destiny spot for LSU for a lot of these transfer players, especially interior D linemen that feel like they can play and play for a team that wants to compete at the highest level.
What's the most interesting position on the offense?
In terms of like addition?
No, for the spring game or for the spring that you
okay.
in terms of watching that side of the ball.
Yeah, I would say probably receiver. They've settled in on the rotation of about six guys that I feel like all could make pretty huge impacts next year. You talk about Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Xavion Thomas, CJ Daniels, Kyle Parker. Those are kind of the top six that we've seen rotate a lot with the first group. Some more than others, of course, but those guys are all electric playmakers. And I think the one thing that we are starting to learn a little bit about this offense is that they're going to spread it around a lot. We were actually just talking with Kyron Lacey today. He talked about, he's not only had the breakout spring that I think many were hoping for, but he's saying, a lot of these guys it's like a different guy every day. On Saturday, it was Xavion Thomas who had a really big day at practice. He said There's been some days where CJ's really stood out. There's been some days where they've really been targeting Aaron Anderson a lot in spring games. So just how they incorporate these weapons and these receivers and how they're trying to do things a little bit differently in the offensive structure. I think that's probably one of the position groups I'm going to be focusing in on pretty heavily.
Chatting with Glen West, senior writer at Geaux 24/7. All your football coverage, all your baseball coverage, all your basketball coverage, recruiting coverage, they got you covered over there at Geaux 24/7. All right, let's shift to baseball, Glen. Are they going to make the NCAA tournament?
I mean, look, the way this team's playing right now, they'd be lucky to make the SEC tournament. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of where things are at. I mean, it's unfortunate to say this, but like they just have not played very good baseball here in conference play. And I know we've talked about kind of the tough stretch of schedule that they had to start conference play, but look, I mean, they got Missouri coming up. Missouri just won a series against Florida. They've got A&M, who's the top 7-6 team in the country right now. I mean, like there's still some really formidable teams here in the back half of the schedule. And what's the realistic goal here that you can kind of shoot for? Can you get to 14, 15 games in conference play? That would mean you have to go 11-7, 12-6 kind of finish here over the next several weeks. And they just haven't shown the consistency part yet that makes me believe that they can do that. Now, we've seen turnarounds, in college baseball. You could really flip it on like a switch, and we could be talking about a very different conversation here in a month's time. But just the way that this kind of has, I guess for lack of better terms, fallen apart on them here over the first 4 weeks of conference play. There's just not a whole lot of optimism, I don't think, at least from an outsider's view. They're going to be able to flip this around. What's the biggest problem? I think if you look at any game, you could point to any number of different concerns, whether it's bullpen pitching. I mean, I think they really have one guy out of the bullpen right now that you can throw out there and say, hey, that guy can go get me a 0, and that's Griffin Herring. Everybody else, I think it's, kind of TBD in terms of if they can go out there and get you some scoreless, innings. But I think bullpen is certainly a concern. Obviously the situational hitting with guys on base and driving guys in has been a major issue for this team all season long. And then I think probably the one area here that you kind of wonder about is how much does Jay want to lean into these younger guys going forward? I mean, they've got some really good veterans. Or some veterans that are on the roster that maybe aren't kind of living up to what they were hoping. Do you get some of these young guys, these young bats, these young fielders, these young pitchers involved a little bit more consistently over the next couple of weeks and see if your luck might change? I think that's something you have to really consider if you're Jay Johnson.
Is Griffin Herring as a starter an option?
I think everything has to be an option, and I've been throwing out some extremes. I mean, I think we're getting to the point in the season here where you have to throw away like conventional thinking and kind of go outside the box here with some of your thoughts. And I brought up the whole Gavin Guidry deal, and does it make sense to maybe move him to infield and shortstop and see if he can't be a fielder? I mean, that's a guy that didn't pitch at all this past weekend, and we know kind of the inconsistencies that he's had out of the bullpen this year in limited roles. So, look, I don't think that would happen. I think that's just kind of an example of the kind of extreme line of thinking that they have to go to maybe kind of change their fortune here. But, yeah, Griffin Herring as a starter could be another one. But then you take him and who you're going to out of the bullpen that can get you zeros. I mean, there's just nobody else. Just a lot of tough questions right now, and I'm glad I'm not the head coach that has to kind of answer them.
I don't know how often y'all speak with the players, but I mean, have you talked to any of the players about how they're feeling right now? I said on my show yesterday, they've got to be shell-shocked that they look up wearing those uniforms and see that record and see the consistent run rules every game 3. I mean, I'm curious what they've said to you.
Yeah, so it's been kind of the last couple of weeks. We haven't talked to as many players, especially after losses. But after the win on Thursday against Vandy, I think we got a chance to talk with Jared Jones a little bit, and he just kind of talked about how they're just kind of trying to push through this. They all understand that it's not the standard that they set last year in terms of championship level, but really there's there's a disconnect, I think, in mindset right now and kind of what it takes to be a consistent winner. And Jared was one of the players that talked about just them needing to really get that fixed quickly, and then they go out and they lose the next 2 games, and it's been really bad vibes, I think, right now just for the program, and you gotta find some good fortune here soon to kind of maybe start turning the tables on your mindset and your concentration and your focus on just what the last 6-7 weeks of this season can be, because I mean they're not in a good spot, but they're technically they're not out of it yet. So they've got some stuff to keep fighting for, keep playing for. We'll just see if they're able to kind of turn the page here and make that happen.
Starts in a few hours against McNeese and then up to Knoxville to play a team that hits a lot of home runs. So we'll see how that goes over the weekend. Glenn, we appreciate the time. We'll see you inside Tiger Stadium on Saturday.
All right. Thanks, Don. Appreciate you.
He's Glen West, senior writer over there at Geaux 24/7. All your team coverage as well as recruiting. Glen's got you covered. He's with us each and every Tuesday. Our Tuesday show is brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar. Get you some Breggie's Creole Crush. Alex Bregman-inspired new sauce over there at Plucker's. Get on by the Nicholson location just south of LSU or the Mall, Louisiana location right there on Blue Bonnet. Take a time out. Come back and close out hour number 1. It's the Hunt Palmer Show. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.